has ever had a famine, even in a poor nation, even in an impoverished nation. As long as there is democracy, as long as people know what's going on, as long as there is communication going on between people, there has never been a famine. And I thought about that. That's a rather remarkable conclusion. And I think it applies as much to a developed nation like the United States as it does to developing nations. So to me, it came down to this. It came down to the fact that it's not about getting more technology as a way to, and science and power and mobilizing more and more capital to end hunger or to prevent starvation. To answer that question of who is going to feed a hungry world, it comes down to the fact that we need more democracy. That's what we need. We don't necessarily, in this case, need more technology. All of us have to participate. But the industrial food system does not engage us in any meaningful way around these big questions of how are we going to prevent famine? How are we going to feed all these people? How are we going to promote food security? Instead, they treat us the same way they cultivate mushrooms. They keep us in the dark and they feed us manure. And I also want to raise the question, and I'm going to do this every time until something's done about it, or until I die. I'm not sure which will come first. But the issues of America's extraordinary wealth disparities and corporate profits are very much in the middle of this discussion, and they of course are completely ignored by the industrial food system. America is home to the third highest level of income inequality among the world's 33 most developed nations. The 1 and 2, I think, are like Singapore and another very small but very wealthy nation. So among those 33 most developed countries, we have the third highest level of income disparity. We also, interestingly enough, can claim the highest rate of food insecurity. As a developed nation, the United States has a higher rate of food insecurity than any of these 33 other nations. We have one of the lowest life expectancies. Even though we spend more on medical costs than any other nation in the world, we get less for it, and we are sicker, in large part due to our lifestyle choices right now around food and lack of physical activity. And student test scores are among the lowest in that 33 nations as well. We're in the bottom quintile when it comes to U.S. Student performance ratings. U.S. income going to the richest 1%, and you're probably hearing this now with Occupy Wall Street. The U.S. income going to the richest 1% was 24% in the year 2007, and it was only 10% in the year 1973. I raise this dangerous economic divide not just for the volumes it speaks about injustice in this country, but because it clearly reveals one answer to the question of who will feed a hungry world. The 400 highest income earners in America in the year 2007 made, in total, between the 400 of them, $345 billion. But they only paid, on average, 16% of that in taxes. That was about my tax rate last year. An additional 10% of that $345 billion, about $35 billion, would easily eradicate food insecurity and hunger in the United States and go a long way to building the capacity of developing nations to feed their own people, and to do that sustainably, which the United Nations has recently said is possible to do. Smaller scale, more diversified, more sustainable food production in the developing world is clearly feasible and capable of feeding their growing populations. But additional taxes, a phrase that is now tantamount to death in America today, would rebuild our regional food infrastructures, make former food deserts bloom with vital and affordable food outlets, and unleash the power of the food system to revitalize our local economies. So when Big Food and Big Ag tell us that only they can feed a hungry world, my response is bunk. They've succeeded in bringing us cheap food, yes, but they've also made us one of the sickest and most food insecure nations in the world. You want to feed the hungry? I'm sorry, we got to tax the rich. You want to expand the economy and protect the environment? Let's invest in sustainable and regional food and farming systems. You want to reduce obesity and diet-related illnesses? Regulate the food industry. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So I'm sure you're wondering, all right, Winnie, what are you going to do about it? Or what do you want us to do about it? Well, let's take a look at that.